And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Hi there, I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Marine Weather Outlook on this Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. And a quick check of the sea ice. We have, at least across the lower Chukchi Sea and along areas west of Wainwright down along the Lisburn Peninsula, we do have these plinias and opening water getting more pronounced, certainly down here in the lower Chukchi Sea through the Bering Strait. Most of the ice out south of there, maybe a few remnant bits there up on the northeast side of St. Lawrence Island. Otherwise, still quite a bit of ice along the Beaufort Sea, Utqiagvik to Kaktovik. And we'll just continue with these milder, warmer temperatures finally getting up along the Beaufort Sea coast. Readings are only in the 30s, but we do have the warmer air that's been out over the North Slope, allowing for the rapid snowmelt and runoff of the North Slope rivers, with flooding still being an ongoing issue, especially the Colville River and the Sag River. So that higher input of snowmelt water should begin to start to help to break up some of these areas as we go through the week. But in the meantime, of note, here in the Panhandle, this little trough that's wrapped around this low that's well southwest of Haida Gwaii does have with it few bands of light rain or rain showers still impacting the Panhandle, but conditions will begin to improve there across the Panhandle as we get into the day later Thursday and Friday. We still have scattering of showers and thunderstorms at the daytime heating across a broad swath of the interior, which is serving to enhance fire danger for the potential for lightning strikes to start more fires. But out here, this is a somewhat interesting low in that it's a 982 millibar low in past mid-June, and it's going to be lifting slowly northward across the central Aleutians later tonight and on Friday. This is a gale force low, so we have especially gale force winds here, eastern Aleutians up into the lower end of the Alaska Peninsula along this frontal boundary. With the front, not only will you have those gale force winds, but you'll also have some bands of rain or rain showers. Otherwise, during the day Thursday, we still have the impacts of this little trough across the southern half of the Panhandle. It could bring some lower cloudiness, lingering light rain showers or areas of light rain. And again, Thursday afternoon, we'll have another eruption of scattered showers and thunderstorms at the daytime heating. Into Friday, conditions should be a bit drier and improving across the Panhandle, especially the southern half. And then back here to the west, we have this low pressure over the central Aleutians with an occluded front working its way north and eastward across the Alaska Peninsula. Winds may not be quite as strong on Friday as what they will be coming up here for tomorrow. So looking at the marine forecast for the southeast part of Alaska, for the inner channels, north-south wind 10 knots, waves a foot or two here within Lynn Canal. Stevens Passage, northwest winds 10 knots, waves a few feet. And then south winds down here around Ketchikan, Metlakatla, waves running a foot or two. We have out of Dixon Entrance an east wind 10 knots, waves 4 or 5 feet. And then as we go up along the coast, Sitka, west wind 15 knots. As we look toward Gustavus, kind of a westerly 15-knot wind into across Sound, and then winds flipping around more to the east at 10 knots out of Yakutat Bay and Cape Suckling at only 10 knots, and swells there 3-4 feet. For Friday, kind of variable winds, 5 to 10 knots, still mainly southerly Lynn Canal, but variable around Stevens Passage, waves a foot or two. Northwest winds to 15 knots. With waves of 2-3 feet, Ketchikan, Metlakatla. As we get along the Gulf side here of Prince of Wales Island off of Craig and up toward Port Alexander, northwest winds of 15 knots, 5-6 foot waves. Westerly winds 10 to 15 knots along Sitka, all the way up to outside of Yakutat Bay with waves running about 4 feet. Light winds also in place Thursday across the northwestern Gulf, variable at around 10 knots, waves 3-4 feet. Within Prince William Sound, mainly southeast winds in the wider expanse at 10 knots with waves a couple of feet. Upper Middle Cook Inlet, variable winds at 10 knots, waves a couple of feet, but winds will be more westerly out of Kamishak Bay and across the Barren Islands, and as well as you have 15 to 20 knot winds northeast there of Kodiak, so waves 3 to 4 feet. For Friday, Winds will become more southwesterly here off the Kenai coast outside of Hinchinbrook entrance and within Prince William Sound, but still only 10 knots there with waves a couple of feet. Southwest winds of 15 knots, upper Middle Cook Inlet waves 2-3 feet, and then southeast winds to 20 knots just northeast of Kodiak Island up there through Kennedy Entrance, Kamishak Bay with waves 4 to 5 feet. Now on Thursday, winds around Kodiak Island will be southwesterly 15 to 20 knots, but as we go on down the length of the Alaska Peninsula, winds are going to be southeast to east, increasing from about 20-25 knots to 35 knot to even some gust of 40 knot gales here, Cold Bay and False Pass, with waves as high as 8-10 feet there near False Pass. And then on Friday, across the whole region, southeast winds, 15 to 20 knots around Kodiak Island. And on the North Pacific side of the peninsula, we're looking at 25 knot southeasterly winds and generally 30 knot southeasterly winds on the Bering side. And the Aleutians, Thursday. Here we have the gale force low coming up, approaching the central Aleutians. So easterly gales, 35 to 40 knots, strongest there around Dutch Harbor on Alaska. And as we follow the circulation on the backside of the low, look for northeast to north winds to 30 knots there, west of Adak through Kiska and Shimia. And for Friday, that low is going to be passing up right in the vicinity between Adak and Atka. So ahead of it, south-southeast winds could be as high as 25-30 knots around far eastern Aleutians and on Alaska. Variable at 10 knots, Atka to Adak. And then on the backside, north-northwest winds to 25 knots west of Adak through Kiska and Shimia. On Thursday, along the southwest coast, 15-knot winds within Bristol Bay and Kuskokwim Bay, waves just a few feet. The Pribilovs, 30-knot easterly winds with waves 8 to 10 feet there. And then along the lower Yukon coast to St. Matthew, look for winds of 10 to as high as 20 knots and waves anywhere from 2 to 4 feet, maybe 5 feet out there towards St. Matthew. And then northwest winds within this wider expanse of Norton Sound, only 5 knots, waves running about a foot. For Friday, those winds turn more northeasterly out of Norton Sound along the lower Yukon coast at 15 knots with waves 2-3 feet, increasing to 25 knots around St. Matthew. Otherwise, east-southeast winds to 30 knots on Friday that include the wider area here of Bristol Bay, Kuskokwim Bay, and the Pribilovs. Waves 6-7 feet out here in the Kuskokwim, Bristol Bays, but as high as 10-12 feet toward the Pribilovs. And then for areas along the west side of the Seward Peninsula, look for northwest winds 10 knots. North side of St. Lawrence, east winds of 10 knots, waves just a foot or two. As we go up through the Chukchi, winds are generally going to be relatively light, 5 to 10 knots, mainly southwest to west from Point Hope down to Kotzebue Sound. As we go up the coast, look for west winds off of Point Lay, Wainwright, and only 10 knots. But as we swing around the Beaufort Sea coastline, easterly winds will increase from 15 knots at Utqiagvik to 20 to 25 knots as you get from Prudhoe Bay to Kaktovik. And on Friday, still easterly winds 20 knots around Kaktovik. Those winds shift back to the northwest and west, Prudhoe Bay to Utqiagvik, and then coming on down along the northwest Chukchi Sea coastline, southwest to south winds 10 knots, and then variable here through the lower portion of the Chukchi Sea at only around 5 knots, but then coming through the Bering Strait, so we include the north side of St. Lawrence Island and the western end of the Seward Peninsula, Wales down to just west of Nome. Winds will be northerly on Friday at 10 to 15 knots.